What's up? I'm Vin, and today I want to go through an Algebra 1 practice test, so let's get started. So first up here, we have a high school club, and there's a lot of stuff going on, but the second sentence is where the important stuff happens. The company charges $35 per person and $245 for a tour guide. And we want a function that represents the total cost, and we're calling that function C of X, for the kayak tour package for X club members. So anytime you hear the phrase per, that tells you the rate of change. So it's $35 per person. $245 for the tour guide is the fixed amount. So this is going to be a linear function here, y equals mx plus b. And just know m, the slope, is also going to tell you the rate of change. And the y-intercept at the end is the fixed amount. That's like your initial condition. So here, when I piece all this together, I'm thinking y equals the rate or slope is 35. So we have 35x plus 245, and now I just look at the answer key here, and this is going to match up with choice 2. Question 2, we just have to know a little bit of algebra, so I would just distribute this 3, and you're going to have 3x plus 12. Now, a little trap here, make sure you distribute the minus to both terms. So think of that as a negative 1. Negative 1 times 2x is minus 2x, and negative 1 times positive 7 is negative 7. And now just combine like terms. We have 3x minus 2x, that makes x. And then we have 12 minus 7, which makes positive 5. So x plus 5, this matches up with choice 1. Question 3, we're trying to find the value of k of negative 3. So this one here, we don't have to think too much. What we could do is we could just type this in on the y equals function. So we have 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. And we want to know what is the value of the function at negative 3. So we just hit second graph to go to the table. And if you go to negative 3, the y value is 36. So k of negative 3 is equal to 36, and we're going with choice 2. Question 4, we want to know which relation is not a function. So right away I could see this is choice 4 because this x value 6 is being mapped to two different places, to 10 and 12. And if you need another representation of this, another way to understand this is that if I were to graph, if we have a graph here at x equals 6, and then I have two y values here at 10 and at 12, well, this, if I were to look at the vertical line here, see how our vertical line would hit this at two locations, so this would not be a function. Okay, so this graph would fail the vertical line test, making it not a function, so definitely choice 4. So for this question here, we have Tony's investment goes from 1140 to 1824, and we're trying to find the average rate of change for this investment was $19 per, and this is where it cuts off. So what I would do here is just do, we have 1824 minus 1140, and this is being divided over the course of 3 years. So I'm going to worry about which answer choice it is after we do this part. But if we just work that out on the side here, we could use a calculator for this, but this isn't too bad to do by hand. So 4 minus 0, and then we just borrow here, and this is going to make 684. So that's $684 over the course of 3 years that Tony's going to make. But now what we need to do is we need to turn this into $19. So the first thing we could do here is just divide by 3. And that's going to make this 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then 3 goes into 8 twice with the remainder of 2. And 3 goes into 24 8 times. So that's $228 per year. But notice we need to solve for $19 per something. So then what we could do is we did per year. So maybe next what we could do is we could try out months. So how many months are there in 1 year? We could replace 1 year with 12 months. So this would make $228 per 12 months. And now we just do the division. 228 divided by 12. 12 goes into 22 once with the remainder of 10. And 12 goes into 108 9 times. So this would simplify here to $19 per month. So to answer this question, the average rate of change was $19 per month. Definitely choice 2. So question 6, we're just going to solve this equation. So distribute the 3, and you got 3x minus 24, and then we've got the plus 4x equals 8x plus 4. So first thing we could do here is just combine like terms. 3x plus 4x will make 7x. And we have 7x minus 24 equals 8x plus 4. Next up, we could just do minus 7x on both sides. And some people like to move all the x's to the left, but I like to move the smaller x over. So now we have x on this side plus 4 equals 7x minus 7x cancels, and we got minus 24 left. So now just subtract 4 on both sides, and you got x equals minus 24 minus 4 is minus 28. So this is going to be choice 4. Question 7, we have ice cream cones modeled by the variable C, milkshakes modeled by M, and the cost of an ice cream cone is $1.50. A milkshake is $2, and Donna has $19 to spend, and she has to buy 5 ice cream cones. And we want to know which inequality could be used to determine the maximum number of milkshakes. So what we have here is an ice cream cone is $1.50, and Donna is definitely getting 5 ice cream cones. So that's going to be $1.50 times 5. That's how much she'll spend on ice cream cones. But milkshakes are $2. So that's $2 times M, the number of milkshakes. But now this is the part we have to be the most careful with. We could eliminate some answer choices here, that we are going to have an inequality where 19 is on the other side. And if we look here, you could see that choices 3 and 4 could be eliminated because we know we're multiplying $1.50 by 5 to find out the cost of 5 ice cream cones. So it's going to be 1 or 2, but the $1 million question here, are we using greater than or equal to or less than or equal to? But the idea is that to determine the maximum number of milkshakes that she could buy. So if she only has $19 to spend, that means her total bill, think of this as like the total bill or how much she owes, has to be less than or equal to 19. Because if the bill is greater than 19, she's not going to be able to afford to buy the cones and milkshakes. So we're going to go with the less than or equal to, which is going to match with choice 2. So for question 8, we want to find in standard form the product of these two. So you could use a calculator for this, but I'll go ahead and practice doing the algebra by hand. So we're going to multiply 3 times 2x, that's 6x, and then we have 3 times minus 5 is minus 15. Now we distribute the x and we get a plus 2x squared. And then we have x times minus 5 is minus 5x. So now in standard form, that means the highest powers of x first, and then we write it in descending order. So we have 2x squared is our highest power of x, so we're writing that first. And then combine like terms. You have 6x and a minus 5x, so combine those to make a plus x. And now last is just the minus 15. So we're looking for 2x squared plus x minus 15. That's going to be choice 2. So question 9, we have x, y, and z, and we want to know which expression results in a rational number. So a rational number is either a whole number, a fraction, or we could have a decimal that terminates, or a decimal that goes on forever, but it has a pattern to it. So if we look at this here, x plus y, well, the first thing that jumps out at me for this is that this is going to be equal to 2 plus 3 radical 2. And this is an irrational number because we have a square root of a non-perfect square plus a whole number. So we have a rational number plus an irrational number, which is going to be irrational. So this is out. Now y minus w, that's going to give us 3 radical 2, an irrational number, minus 2 radical 8, which is another irrational number. And an irrational number minus an irrational number is irrational. So now we have w times y, and this is going to be the 1. This is going to work out to, we would have 2 radical 8 times y is equal to 3 radical 2. And when you multiply irrational numbers, you could do 2 times 3 first is 6, and then radical 8 times radical 2 makes radical 16. Just know this rule. Radical a times radical b is equal to radical a times b. And now the square root of 16, that's a perfect square, so the square root of 16, we just write 4, and 6 times 4 is 24. That is definitely a rational number, so definitely choice 3. So for question 10, we'll practice factoring, and we're going to use the AC method here. Just know anytime you have a quadratic expression, ax squared plus bx plus c, a times c refers to the product of the first and the last coefficient. So we'd have 4 times negative 27, and if I'm doing that in my head, 27 times 2 is 54, times another 2 is 108, so this will make minus 108. And then the b value, the middle coefficient, is minus 3. So now you're just thinking of what two numbers have a product of negative 108 and a sum of negative 3, and that would make negative 12 and positive 9. So then what we do with this is we rewrite this as 4x squared minus 12x plus 9x minus 27. And we could do factoring by grouping here. So now we could take out a common 4x, and we're left with x minus 3. Plus, the greatest common factor here is 9, and we're left with x minus 3. You know you're doing this process correctly if the leftover factors match. Otherwise, if they don't match, then you got to try factoring again. So we've got x minus 3, and we're left with 4x plus 9. And now 4x plus 9 times x minus 3 corresponds to choice 3. So for question 11, what we could do is we could type both functions in the y equals. So alpha y equals enter to make a fraction. And we've got 2/3 times x minus 4. And then we've got 1/4 x plus 1. For 1/4, I'll just write 0.25. So we got 0.25x plus 1. And now we could go through all this stuff. Is f of 4 equal to g of 4? So we could press second graph to go to the table, and if we look over here at x equals 4, you can see these values don't match. So Roman numeral 1 is not true. Now when x equals 12, the functions are equal. So now we go back to the table. And a nice little shortcut to this, if you go ahead and press second window, you could change the independent variable from auto to ask. And then you could just manually type this stuff in if you don't feel like scrolling. So you see here again at x equals 4, there's no match. At x equals 12, you could see here that they do match. So 2 is definitely true. The graphs of f and g intersect at 12, 4. We'll notice when x equals 12, y equals 4, and y equals 4 for both functions. So 3 is also true. And the graphs of f and g intersect at 4, 12. Well, once again, at x equals 4, the functions were not equal. So 2 and 3 are going to be true, and this is going to match up with choice 4. So question 12, we want to know which sketch represents the polynomial function f of x given here. Now we could use the calculator for this, but there's a way we could go through this really quickly. For one, I could eliminate choices 3 and 4 because these graphs don't even represent functions at all, because if we draw on a vertical line, and let's draw it a little bit nicer, and third time's a charm. See, this vertical line hits the graph 3 times, so this is not a function. And the same thing happens if we draw a vertical line over here. So these two fail the vertical line test. So now it's between choices 1 and 2. But what I do to make this go really quickly is I look for when is f of x equal to 0, and notice it's already in factored form. So when is x times x plus 6 times x plus 3 equal to 0? Well, to find the roots from these factors, we set each factor equal to 0. So x equals 0. X plus 6 equals 0 tells us x equals negative 6 is a root. And then x plus 3 equals 0 occurs when x equals negative 3. So now we're looking for a graph that has roots at 0, negative 6, and negative 3. And you could see it's going to match up with choice 1 because we have a root at negative 6, a root at negative 3, and a root at 0. Whereas here, the roots occur at 0, 3, and 6. So this one's out. Definitely choice 1. For question 13, if you don't have these rules memorized, you could always pick out a random value of k. So if we look here, let's say I let k equal 2. Then f of x would equal x minus 2 squared plus 5. So what we're trying to look for here is what transformation occurs to p of x when we replace x with x minus k, and then we add 5 at the end. So once again, we're going to let k equals 2, and we'll investigate this in the calculator. So we'll go over to the y equals, and we're going to clear out what we had before. So the parent function is x squared. But remember, we're letting k equal 2. So we're going to have x minus 2 squared. We close the parentheses, then write our square. And then we have a plus 5. So now we're just going to graph this. Make sure we're in standard mode. So here's the parent function at the origin. Now how do we get to the red graph? We're going to the right 2 units. And we're going up 5 units. But now we just replace it with the letter k. So we're going to the right k units. So k units to the right. And we're going up 5 units. That corresponds to choice 3. So for this one here, it really helps to know rules like this. When you have an expression like this, a times b in parentheses to the c power, this is the same thing as doing a to the c power times b to the c power. So this, we could say, is, make sure we use parentheses, negative 4 to the third power times x squared to the third power. Now there's another rule in algebra we need to know. A to the b to the c power is the same thing as a to the b times c. So negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4, that's going to be negative 64. And then x squared to the third, we're going to use this rule. We're going to do x to the 2 times 3 is 6. So we're looking for this answer choice. Just be careful of something like this. A common mistake would be people would add these together. But that would be if we had something like x squared times x to the third. That would be equal to x to the fifth. But once again, just be careful of that little trap. Definitely choice 3. So question 15, we have to know how to find a y-intercept in all representations. So a y-intercept occurs when x is equal to 0. So if we look here, g of 0 would give us 2 times 0 minus 6, or negative 6. So that's our starting y-intercept. Now, once again, the y-intercept occurs at x equals 0. So in this case, for choice 2, our y-intercept here is equal to 1. So our y-intercept is 1, and we're looking for the smallest. So 1 is definitely not smaller than negative 6, so we could eliminate choice 2. Now here, f of 0, the square root of 0 is 0, and then minus 2 is minus 2. So choice 3 is out because negative 6 is smaller than negative 2. And now our y-intercept, once again, is when x equals 0, and it's when the graph hits the y-axis, and here the y-intercept occurs at negative 2. So choice 1 is going to be our solution because negative 6 is the smallest. So for question 16, which domain, which is the set of x values, would be most appropriate for a function that compares the number of emails sent, x, to the amount of data used for a cell phone plan, y? So we have to think about an appropriate domain considering the units here are emails. Well, just know emails, you could only send a positive number of emails, and you have to send whole numbers. You can't send a fraction of an email. Don't think of it as like if you have a draft of an email that it's like partially sent. You could only send a whole amount of emails and positive numbers. So integers are out because negative 5 is an integer. You can't send negative 5 emails. Whole numbers, that makes sense. You can't send a fraction, like I can't send 1/3 of an email, so this is out. And I can't send pi emails, so this is out. Definitely choice 2. So question 17, we have Eric deposits $500 in a bank account that pays 3.5% interest, compounded yearly. Which type of function should he use to determine how much money he'll have in the account at the end of 10 years? So for a question like this, it helps to know this formula that the principal times 1 plus the interest rate to the power t. This is compound interest, where the interest is compounded yearly. So here, this is an exponential function. Now, if I had to write it out specifically for Eric, then the amount of money that Eric has, y, is equal to 500. 3.5% is the same thing as 3.5 out of 100, which is 0.035, like this. So this would be 500 times 1 plus 0.035 to the t power. So once again, this is an exponential function because the variable is in the exponent. So this would match up with choice 4. So for this question here, we have an arithmetic sequence and we have the formula for it. And to determine the 10th term, which variable would we replace with the number 3? Well, just know this represents the first term. Okay, so we have the first term here, and then this is the common difference. Okay, so this is the common difference, which is the number that we add to get from one term to the next. So notice, to get from 4 to 7, we're doing plus 3. To get from 7 to 10, we're doing plus 3. And to get from 10 to 13, we're doing plus 3. So the common difference here is equal to 3. So which variable would we replace with the number 3? That's going to be the variable d. Now, a sub 1 in this case is equal to 4. So that's how I know it's not this one. And n could be anything. So we're not going to replace that with t. With 3, we're going to replace n with 10 eventually if we did want to find the 10th term. So that's why the other ones are out. Definitely choice 4. For question 19, we have a set of data in group A. And then in group B, we have a set of data modeled with a box and whisker plot. And we want to find out which statement about A and B is true. So we're going to use the calculator here to transform group A into a more tangible form. So let's go over to stat here, and we're going to press edit, and we're going to enter in that data. So we have 2, 5, 5, and then we've got 3 6s, and then 7, 8, 9. Okay, so here's our data. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to diagnostic. So second 0, and just make sure that the diagnostic is on. We could press alpha and then go to option over here to write in the letter D. That way you don't have to keep scrolling for, a long time. It's like a little shortcut. And once again, make sure diagnostic is on. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to stats and we're going to calculate single variable statistics. So option 1. So we do that, and now we could scroll down and get all the important stuff here. So we have the min, we have the max, we have the median, and we have quartile 1 and quartile 3. So now this question should be much easier to answer. So the median of A, which is 6, is greater than the median of B. Well, just know this here, you have to know how to label a box and whisker plot. This is the min, this is the max, This part here represents quartile 1. This value here represents the median. And then we have quartile 3. And once again, the max is over here. So these are the 5 significant values of a box and whisker plot. So now we just have to read it off. So the median lines up with 6. So is 6 greater than 6? Absolutely not. That's a false statement. The range of A is less than the range of B. Well, just know the range is the difference of the max and the min. So the range of A is 7, since we just do 9 minus 2. And the range of B, we would do 10 minus 4 is equal to 6. 7 is less than 6. That's a false statement, so this is out. The upper quartile of A. Well, the upper quartile corresponds to quartile 3. So that would be 7.5 is less than the upper quartile of B would line up with 9, and that is a true statement. So choice 3 is looking good, but let's just show that choice 4 is no good. The lower quartile of A is 5. So once again, this is for group A. So group A, the lower quartile is 5, and the lower quartile of B lines up with 5. 5 is not greater than itself, so definitely choice 3. Question 20, we want to know which system has the same solution as this system below. So let's go ahead and use the calculator. Now later on, I'm going to show how to solve a system by hand, so I'll go ahead and show the calculator for this part. So we press apps and we go to this one over here, number 9. And what we do is we are going to solve a simultaneous equation, so we're going with option 2. And there's going to be 2 equations with 2 unknown variables. And now we're going to go to the next part here, so we press graph to go next. And now the equation from the question was 1x. So press 1, enter, and we can just press enter here to go to the next part. And it was a 3y, so we press 3, press enter, and that was equal to 10, that first equation. And now the next equation was negative 2x, and then we had plus negative 2y equals, and we have 4 like this. Okay, we could have also wrote minus 2y, but this will be fine here. So now that it's all set, we're going to solve this. We just press graph, and the solution here is negative 8, 6. But now think about what are we going to do with this here? Well, negative 8, 6, we're going to go ahead and plug it into the answer choices and see which one matches up. So for choice 1, let's say I do negative 8 plus 6. Is that equal to 6? Well, minus 8 becomes 8 plus 6. 8 plus 6 equals 6 is not true, so 1 is out. Now, if we try for the second choice here, we have negative 8 plus 6 equals 14. That's a true statement. 8 plus 6 is 14. Definitely true. And now we have 2 times negative 8 plus 6 times 6 equals 20. And this gives us negative 16 plus 36 equals 20. And that is a true statement. So choice 2 is it. But just to be safe, we'll check the other ones. X plus y equals 6. Well, if we just do negative 8 plus 6, that's going to equal negative 2, which is not equal to 6. So 3 is out, and then x plus y equals 14. Well, we just showed for negative 8 and 6 that when we add them together, we get negative 2, which is not 14. So definitely choice 2. For question 21, we want to know, based on this pattern, which recursive formula represents the number of triangles in the sequence. Well, the fact that it has to be a recursive formula means it has to be choice 3 or 4. So these ones are out. Because remember, a recursive formula is defined based on the term before it. So the a sub n term is defined by the one right before it, the a sub n minus 1 term. So if we look here, the first term in the sequence has 3 triangles, and then each time 2 are going to be added. So there's 3, then 5, then 7, and then 9 triangles. Well, right away we can see the first term should be 3, not 2. So this one's out. And how do we get from 1 to the next? We're adding 2 triangles each time. So that's why from the previous, we just add 2, so definitely choice 4. For question 22, there's a little bit of a trap here. The student was asked to write an expression that has a leading coefficient of 3 and a constant term of negative 4. So one thing to be careful with here is the leading coefficient refers to the coefficient of the leading term. And the leading term, we're looking for the highest power of x. Okay, so the trap here is that the highest power of x doesn't always show up first. So we're looking for a coefficient of 3 with the highest power of x. So you could see in choice 4, x to the 4th is the highest power of x and the coefficient is 3. So far this one's looking good because what we have is the constant term at the end without an x is negative 4. So it's definitely this one. Now this one has a leading term with a constant of 3. However, the constant term at the end would be positive 4, not minus 4. That's why this one's out. So definitely choice 4. Question 22, we have Sarah travels on her bike at a speed of 22 miles per hour. We want to know Sarah's approximate speed in kilometers per hour. So let's just go ahead and write this out. We've got 22.7 miles per hour, and we'll abbreviate here. So we want to convert to kilometers per minute. So one thing that we have to know here, which is not obvious, but it's in the reference section here, is that 1 kilometer is equal to 0.62 miles. So the first thing I'll convert to here is we want to convert to kilometers. So if I want miles to cancel out, then I want my miles that come from this equation to be in the denominator. So I would have 0.62 miles for every 1 kilometer. Now this throws students off because they think if you're multiplying by this, they look at 1 and 0.62 and say, well, you're multiplying the top by 1 but the bottom by 0.62. But just know 1 kilometer is equal to 0.62 miles. So when you have a fraction where the numerator and denominator are equal, that fraction is going to be equal to 1. So we're really just multiplying by 1 in a crafty way. But that's going to get rid of miles like this, but we also want to be in the form of kilometers per minute. So we need hours to cancel out. So then the next thing we need to know here is that 1 hour, well, in 1 hour there are 60 minutes. So if I want hours to cancel out, then I'm going to write 1 hour up top over 60 minutes on bottom like this. So now you can see hours over hours cancel, and we're left with just kilometers per minute. The rest is just typing in the calculator. So now we're back on the main screen here. Let's just type in that product. We have 22.7 times, and we're going to multiply by the fraction. We had 1 over 0.62, and then we're multiplying that by, and let's get out of that fraction here. So we're getting out of this, and we're going to multiply this by the last fraction that we wrote was 1 over 60. Okay, now the units are back on the main page here, but this is just all the calculator part. So we multiply this, and we have 0.610. So this is all equal to 0.610, and remember, we're left with kilometers per minute, but they want us to round to the nearest tenth here, so this is going to correspond to choice 2. Question 24, we want to see which ordered pair does not fall on the line formed by the other 3. So for this question here, if the points are going to be on the same line, then between any 2 points, they're going to have the same slope, okay? Because the slope of a line does not change. So we're going to look for the 1 point that doesn't make the same slope with the other 3. So let's say we use 1 and 2 first, and just know the slope formula, we do the difference in the y values, y2 minus y1, over the difference in the x values, x2 minus x1. So we're going to use choice 1 and choice 2 first. So that slope, if we found it, we would do 18 minus 12 divided by 16 minus 12. And this is going to work out to 6 over 4, which reduces to 3/2. Okay, and let's just make that a little bit neater. This is going to work out to 3 over 2 when we reduce. So now let's change gears and we'll use, let's say we use choice 3 and choice 4. So this would give us m equals, we would have 10 minus 6, that's the difference in the y values, over 9 minus 3, and this is going to make 4 over 6, which reduces to 2/3. So already the slopes don't match. So now maybe what we could do is we can mix and match. We'll do choice 2 and choice 4 together. And now m equals, we're going to have, I'll do this one first. So we have 12 minus 6 over 12 minus 3. And this is going to make 6 over 9, which we divide the top and bottom by 3. That's going to reduce to 2/3. So there's that slope of 2/3. So you see between 2, 3, and 4, they have the same slope. So 1 looks like the odd one out. So 1 is going to be the 1 point that's not on the line with the others.